What's going on, guys? Sam Adams here, and welcome to a brand new episode of Caffeinate today for February the 25th of 2019. My name is Samuel Adams, and welcome to today's show. You may notice, if you're on the video version of the show, then we do have a new camera angle, which is positioned above my main monitor. So if it looks strange, it very well could be, and on top of that, it very well could be a little bit off kilter. We're just gonna pretend like I'm a professional with this, and boom, look at that. It is insane how good the quality of this show is. But with that being said, this train wreck, just kidding, is a daily gaming news podcast hosted 5 days a week, Monday through Friday on twitch.tv/thesamueladams. The show is then put up on youtube.com/SamuelAdamsMedia, as well as anchor.fm/SamuelAdams, which then puts the podcast out on various podcasting platforms, if that does sound like something you might be interested in. So that's pretty much the gist of the show. And of course, there's always something to talk about in the beautiful realm of video games. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, Anthem's physical sales are not doing so great. In fact, they are half of Mass Effect Andromeda's, but we'll talk about what that actually means and how the fact that it is being compared to Mass Effect Andromeda actually skews the overall result. So we'll address that in today's show. On top of that, Fortnite has been dropping in revenue. Last month's revenue is down by almost 50% since December, as the digital game spending is declining. Epic, speaking of which, the Unreal Engine will support HoloLens. We'll talk more about that. Bethesda's game placeholder is up on Amazon that could very well be a Fallout reveal coming very soon. The Outer Worlds could be coming in August. We'll talk about that release date leak. Count them three, 1, 2, 3 classic Resident Evil games are coming to the Nintendo Switch on May the 21st. And finally, yet another freebie coming to the Epic Games Store. And that, my friends, is Slime Rancher, a game which is very solid in and of itself. But that's pretty much the gist of today's show. So if it sounds like something you might be interested in, then let's go ahead and dive on into it. First off, Anthem's physical sales are half of Mass Effect Andromeda's so far. Anthem topped the UK boxed game sales chart during its first week of release, but with half the physical sales of BioWare's previous game, Mass Effect Andromeda. Without digital sales through EA's Origin service on PC or download sales on PS or Xbox, it is difficult to draw exact comparisons. But from the comparisons we can make right now, Anthem sales do not paint a hugely positive picture. Anthem only managing half the launch week sales of Andromeda is disappointing, as Andromeda only managed half the launch week sales of Mass Effect 3 itself. Again, we're talking boxed sales here, which will have dipped over time in favor of growing number of people downloading their games digitally, one of which I am. But it seems nearly impossible that Anthem made up that sales gap with Andromeda. The last Mass Effect game launched at the same time only 2 years ago and through the same methods, including EA Access, which offered an early trial. As an online-only game, you might expect a higher number of sales digitally, so let's compare them to Anthem to Destiny, as many already have. Anthem sold roughly a quarter of Destiny 2's Week 1 physical total from back in September of 2017. Just looking at 2019's release calendar so far, Anthem's opening weekend physical sales were lower than both Kingdom Hearts 3 and Resident Evil 2. In fact, it is not hugely surprising, the author says. Anthem has had a tough road to release a rocky beta and technical issues in early access. Early impressions have been mixed, while BioWare has rushed to patch some of Anthem's biggest problems for launch day, and of course they have released yet another patch as of today. Now, all of that to say, Anthem is apparently on the surface level first glance not doing so well on physical store fronts. And that is something that I suppose we didn't really want to see, we didn't really expect to see, but it is something that is happening, I mean, when it comes down to it. Now, to compare it directly to Mass Effect Andromeda, in and of itself is something that I think might be a bit misleading for people, especially when it comes to this headline. Now, of course, the main reason for this direct comparison is the fact that, hey, this was the last game that BioWare actually released, so let's see how things have progressed over the years. However, you do have to understand that Anthem is a brand new game. It's a brand new IP that many people have never even seen before. If you are just average Joe who doesn't really pay that much attention to the video game culture, and you might be strolling through a Walmart and you see Anthem, you don't see Anthem and have any kind of pre-existing understanding of what that actually is. As a comparison, if you walk through and see Mass Effect, you know what Mass Effect is, and of course there have been many Mass Effect games, so you probably know at least somewhat about what you are getting into with that. So that's something that I think could definitely skew the overall reception of the game itself. Now, in addition to that, I see this author is comparing it to Destiny as well. Those are two completely different entities. Of course, the gameplay itself is a bit different aside from it having the same mechanics in a way because of the looter-shooter genre that has been emerging over the years. But to compare Anthem to Destiny 2, especially when it comes to sales, is something that is very, very unfair because Destiny 2 in and of itself was supposed to be the biggest release of 2017, and in many ways it actually was. But at the end of the day, Destiny 2 itself didn't really fulfill fans' expectations, even though the sales were incredibly high on launch because of the high bar that the original Destiny had set. Now, the biggest thing that I do want to drive home about Anthem, number one, is that it's an early access game for the first week, essentially since it has been out since about February 15th, and now we're starting to get into the meat of the actual version of the full game. This is what it was meant to be whenever it did come out, as of right now, which again is February 25th. So you're getting the full version of the game, no early access, no, any of that kind of stuff. You are getting what you should actually be getting now. And on top of that, Anthem is also a game that is going to evolve over time because there is going to be free DLC that comes out, free content updates, etc. that change the fundamental mechanics of the game, change drop rates, etc. That really do shift the overall public opinion of Anthem over time. So to say that Anthem is, as it sits right now, a 6.5 for a lot of people, somewhere around there on the rating scales, from here on out is not necessarily accurate because, quite frankly, it will change, it will shift, and I've seen a lot of outlets actually saying, hey, we're going to reevaluate this game 6 months down the line. And if you do want to compare it to Destiny 2, that's something that people have done as well, because you have reviews for both the base version of Destiny 2, and on top of that you see stuff like a review for Destiny 2 Forsaken, which is considerably higher as compared to the launch reveal. So with that being said, right now, as it sits, Anthem's physical sales are half of Mass Effect Andromeda's, but again, you can read into that as much as you want. Anthem in and of itself, I've heard good things, I've heard bad things. It's up to you to decide. Should you jump in right now and spend a full 60? It depends. I probably wouldn't. But moving on to the next topic of the day, Fortnite is of course a massive worldwide sensation even as Apex Legends continues its rise to the top, but last month's revenue was actually down by almost 50% since December as digital game spending is declining. Despite an overall year-on-year increase in sales, Fortnite saw a 48% drop in revenue last month as compared to December. SuperData reports that the game's decrease in revenue was across all platforms after a particularly lucrative December. Last year, Fortnite made over $500 million on iOS. The game launched in March, so that figure is for less than a year and doesn't take Android revenue into account. As impressive a feat as it is, Fortnite Mobile was absent from the top 10 grossing mobile titles for January of 2019. That, in and of itself, is pretty shocking. Candy Crush, which finished the year with over $1.5 billion in player spending, is the fourth highest grossing mobile title on the chart, and Pokemon Go, which of course generated around $800 million on both Android and iOS over the course of 2018, was the second highest grossing mobile game. Fortnite was the fifth top grossing game on PC and the second highest on console. Digital video game spending was down across all platforms by 6% year on year, and console revenue dipped by 3%, while PC saw a larger decline of 29%. That's a big chunk of change. Earlier today, Epic released the first image teasing Season 8 of Fortnite, which appears to have a pirate theme, and of course they are also currently doing a promotion where if you complete a set of in-game objectives called challenges, you get access to the Season 8 Battle Pass for free, which hypothetically should bring you back for more as time does go on. But with all of that being said, Fortnite, I want to make it very clear, is not dying by any means. It's just completely and totally unrealistic to expect the game to sustain the level of popularity that it had throughout 2018. In and of itself, the fact that that game remained as popular as it did throughout 2018 is incredible because I have never seen a game that had that type of momentum, and they're very few and far between that are able to maintain that over an extended period of time. To see the revenue drop, I would say, is almost 100% something that should be attributed directly to Apex Legends and the release of that game in a kind of stealthy way towards the beginning of January. I truly do believe that that is what really did cause this entire entire drop. Now, of course, Fortnite has been on the decline for a couple of months now as people have begun to try different experiences, whatnot, etc. But, again, there is always something that really does kick off the first abandonment of a game, really, and I think Apex Legends successfully did that. On top of that, it's also worth noting that a lot of the streamers, and I mean a lot of streamers that would be playing Fortnite normally, decided to play Apex Legends for an extended period of time. In fact, many streamers that were pretty much Fortnite streamers for the entirety of 2018 have begun to transition almost entirely to Apex Legends, among mixing in other games across platforms, not just on Twitch. And so I think that overall, this change in the marketing approach, because of streamers not actually being able or not wanting to play the game as much, is something that is also impacting the overall sales revenue of Fortnite itself. Again, not dying, just beginning to transition into its somewhat retirement phase, where you still go and visit it every now and again, but you don't see it nearly as much at work. That's pretty much what we're getting to right now. But again, 48% drop in revenue for December as compared to December of 2018. Now moving on, Epic Games' Unreal Engine is going to be supporting HoloLens. No games at first, but Epic is open to the idea. You can't call HoloLens to a gaming platform, but Microsoft is at least laying the groundwork. Epic Games has announced that it's adding HoloLens support to Unreal Engine 4, the technology that powers a wide range of games and 3D productivity apps. It is, quote, up and running now, Epic's Tim Sweeney said, and should be available to all developers in May. You are not about to play an augmented reality version of Fortnite, however. It should allow for photorealistic 3D and AR apps, augmented reality for those that don't know, though, and it's already really just the start of Epic's plans. Sweeney stressed that Epic didn't have any games or consumer augmented reality strategies to announce yet, which is not surprising. Most people aren't about to buy a $3,500 headset for games. He added that the company is committed to supporting HoloLens in the long term, though, and that support would include all of our endeavors. Don't be shocked if you find yourself playing immersive shooters when a genuinely affordable HoloLens does arrive. Interesting approach here from Tim Sweeney and the guys at Epic Games, because I understand what they're doing to begin the overall integration into their ecosystem. HoloLens 2 is an incredibly high-level augmented reality headset, and to have Unreal Engine 4 compatibility is something that really does change the game when you're talking to people about development of in-game apps, not only for gameplay, but also for applications in real-world scenarios, such as, I'm just hypothesizing here, I guess, practice surgeries that you can do within augmented reality, the improvements that could be made with your own kind of heads-up display via augmented reality, stuff like that, that the HoloLens would be incredibly good for. In fact, I have heard some Microsoft employees have been upset about the fact that apparently they are going to be integrating HoloLens into the military-style setup, allowing pretty much super soldiers, if you really want to get down to it, without the Iron Man suits. But all of this aside, all of the technological applications of HoloLens 2, it is incredibly amazing. Some might even say just incredible, to shorten the phrase a little bit, that HoloLens is becoming something that is genuinely usable and genuinely understandable and genuinely applicable across a variety of platforms, not only for gaming, but also for real-world uses that pretty much push every industry forward in some kind of way, shape, or form. But without a doubt, if you did want to check out everything that they have going on, there is tons of coverage via the HoloLens Google search that you can do on google.com. It's fantastic. But again, tons of stuff coming from Epic Games on top of HoloLens integration with maybe games in the future, but right now, specifically the Unreal Engine, because it's a very good engine in and of itself. Now let's talk about Fallout, shall we? Bethesda game placeholder on Amazon shows a Fallout-style countdown video. I will say, before we even jump into this, just to go ahead and kind of calm your expectations, according to some dude on Twitter, which again, always a reliable source, this is apparently a very generic video that you can find on YouTube for pretty much just any kind of application, but it does appear to be a Fallout-styled video, so this very well could be some dude that works at Amazon who made the listing, kind of hinting to gamers what is to come. So, well, here's something interesting. There is a placeholder up on Amazon which lists a Bethesda title complete with a Fallout-style countdown video. An Amazon listing has popped up and it shows a Fallout-style countdown video which has many scratching their heads, ourselves included, they say over at VG247. The placeholder was found by Wario64 and posted on Twitter. A standard, deluxe, and collector's edition are each listed for the item along with a pre-order option, and the platforms are PC, PS4, and the Xbox One. Now, because this is a pre-order, the release date is listed as December the 31st, and price for all 3 editions is $59.99. This is because the actual release date and price are unknown at this time, but here is the actual video in and of itself, and again, very much so a Fallout-esque 10-second countdown trailer like you would be used to seeing at something of a Bethesda E3 press conference, which very well could be where we actually see the reveal of whatever Fallout project they may or may not be working on. So what could it be? Gameatsu has suggested the listing could be for a remastered Fallout 3 or even a remastered Fallout New Vegas, and either one would be swell, but the latter option would be super swell in the opinion of this author. Bethesda is always one to keep things close to its chest until it's ready to make an official announcement, so do not expect word on what this is anytime soon, but again, they could be wrong. The listing could also be for a completely different game too, or some sort of screw up on Amazon's part. Nobody's psychic. However, it does appear that there is some kind of Fallout potentially coming at E3 of 2019. Now, of course, this would be a massive deal when it comes to where Fallout is going in the future, and I don't think anybody really expects any kind of Fallout release, unless it is going to be some kind of remaster, because right now you are in the thick of Fallout 76, which again has not necessarily been the best received Fallout game ever. In fact, you might say it's the worst received Fallout game ever, but still, they're in the midst of supporting it on the development side of things. And so to have a remastered Fallout 3 makes sense because the groundwork is already laid, and pretty much the only thing you have to do is really make the game look a little bit prettier and pump it out on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC for an undisclosed price. Again, the same kind of thing could be happening with New Vegas, although that one is a little bit more, I guess, cloudy, if you will, but we'll talk about that at a later date. So could this be Fallout 5? More than likely not, but it is worth mentioning here on today's show that there is potentially going to be some kind of Fallout announcement coming at E3. Again, this could be anything, but the countdown. I mean, come on, how could you look at that? That's Fallout 100%. I mean, right there. However, I'll let you guys know if there is any more information coming out about that between now and E3, and of course, there's always some E3 coverage coming down the pipe from your boys, so stay tuned for that, which again is in just a couple of months. Also, to Spike in the chat, welcome on in, my friend. Moving on to the next story of the day. The Outer Worlds could be coming in August, and this is the best-looking game from the Game Awards last year. Obsidian Entertainment's upcoming game, The Outer Worlds, briefly revealed on August 6th release date on its Steam page over the weekend, as spotted by Games Radar. The Steam page for the first-person RPG currently states release is planned for 2019, but it did display August 6th, 2019 on Friday, until it was removed several hours later. The change is noted on the game's Steam database entry. Since the announcement of The Outer Worlds during the Game Awards 2018 back in December, we have not had a release date more narrow than sometime this year. While it's not yet certain that the game is coming in August, it is certainly plausible. Obsidian Entertainment, the studio behind Fallout New Vegas, South Park: The Stick of Truth, and Pillars of Eternity series, is definitely planning a 2019 release. Back in November, Microsoft revealed that it had acquired Obsidian Entertainment during its X018 event, calling it one of the industry's premier RPG developers. Earlier this month, Microsoft Studios was rebranded as Xbox Game Studios, which includes Obsidian Entertainment and 12 other development teams, including 343, The Coalition, Compulsion Games, Minecraft, Ninja Theory, Playground Games, Rare, and Undead Labs. The development studios will work towards expanding Microsoft's offerings beyond console games by offering more titles for PC and mobile. And again, the game is set to come out on PC, PS4, and the Xbox One later in 2019, and apparently on August 6th, if this Steam release date is to be believed. So what is the validity of this belief? Is it actually going to be coming out in August? Personally, I think that is the ideal time to release this game. I think August is perfect when it comes to when The Outer Worlds should actually come out, because it's not big enough, in my opinion, to compete with the big boys come October, November, and December. It's still going to be a very significant game, but again, it's going to have the same kind of effect that Anthem saw, where people within the gaming industry and within the culture are incredibly into it, but again, people that are outside of it aren't necessarily going to buy it because they've never heard of it before and they don't know what the actual game is, and so sales could therefore suffer. However, August tends to be a time whenever it's beginning to kind of ramp up to the holiday season, but it's not quite there yet, leaving a pretty big open space where people's anticipations are high, but the amount of games of quality that are coming out are relatively low. Now, when it comes down to it, The Outer Worlds looks like it's shaping up to be a fantastic game for the rest of 2019, but it could be coming as soon as August the 6th, and I would assume you're going to be hearing more about this at E3 this year, probably at the Xbox conference as they begin to roll out what they've been working on with their Xbox Game Studios. But I'll let you guys know more about that when we know more about it right here. Now, moving on, if you have a Nintendo Switch, don't feel left out in the cold, even though all these games are coming out hypothetically on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, because there are 3 classic Resident Evil games coming to the Switch very soon, on May the 21st. I'll be graduated from college by then. Nice. You can pre-order the games starting on Thursday. 4 months after Capcom announced it would bring 3 Resident Evil games to the Nintendo Switch, we now have a release date, May the 21st. The company shared a save the date for Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 4 on Twitter this morning. Pre-orders via the Switch eShop open on February the 28th. Since its first release in 1996, Resident Evil has been ported to several consoles. It's also been remade twice, once for the GameCube in 2002 and later for the Xbox One, PS4, and PC. But the ability to play Resident Evil on the road, or as the RE Games account tweeted, on trains during mansion tours across the European countryside, has fans understandably excited. Each of the 3 games coming to Switch is significant in its own right. The original Resident Evil is credited with defining the survival horror genre of video games. Resident Evil 4, which shifted the focus to fast-paced action, was originally released for the GameCube and has been ported to more than 7 different platforms. While Resident Evil 0 received less attention, it does stand out as the series' prequel. There is no word yet if the recently remade Resident Evil 2 will ever come to the Switch, or how all of this plays into rumors of a Resident Evil Netflix series. And so, if you did want to check out the Resident Evil games coming to Switch, they are all launching on May the 21st. And if I had to pick one to actually pursue and one to actually play, Resident Evil 4 is very, very solid. But of course, as they do say, these are all significant in their own right. So if you did want to dive in on your Nintendo Switch, on your train, in your car, on a plane, wherever you might be, you can play a ton of zombie slashing Nintendo action, if that is something you might be interested in. Sorry, I was playing Apex Legends and Origin was open, so it made a little noise when my friend got online. But moving on to the final story of the day, Slime Rancher will be the next freebie on the Epic Games Store. A cute, colorful farming simulator. It is very cute and it is very colorful. Slime Rancher, the cutesy sim about farming blobs of slime. About I was thinking abusing, like you're over here beating them with battery. Slime Rancher, let's try it again. The cutesy sim about farming blobs of slime will be the next free game on the Epic Games Store. Thimbleweed Park is currently free, and it'll hang around until March the 7th. Slime Rancher will then replace it, and you'll be able to grab it for free until March the 21st. The game is about capturing slimes, herding them into pens, force-feeding them, sucking up their plorts, otherwise known as poop, with a vacuum gun, and selling it for a profit. It is the kind of horror show that has you hankering for that chlorinated chicken you keep hearing about. On the other hand, look at their little faces, Catherine wrote in her review. It sounds fun, but repetitive with a bit too much busy work, but hey, it's free, so you might as well grab it if you have an Epic Games Store account, because again, it's free, so why not? Now, with that being said, I have spent a bit of time with Slime Rancher, and I don't want you to think of Slime Rancher as a game where you sit down and you play it for hours and hours and hours, expecting engaging content, because quite frankly, it is a great game to come home and unwind to. It's just very simple in nature. It's something that's fun. It's lighthearted. It doesn't make you think. I'm a very big fan of this kind of chill, relaxing type of game, as Duke of Spook says in the chat. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's just a very laid-back experience that a lot of people have been enjoying over the years. And of course, it's out right now on the PS4 and the Xbox, the Xbox One and the PC. Let's see, Slime. I think it's on the PS4 as well. Rancher. PS4, doing a little bit of on the fly. Yes, fantastic. So it is coming out now on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC, but it's also going to be free on the Epic Games Store. We got it all sorted out. Don't worry. I always let you know when you can get a pretty good deal on some pretty free stuff, because hey, who doesn't like free regardless of what it is? I have literally gone on and redeemed every game on the Epic Games Store that is free because hey, you never know when you're going to play it. Might as well. And again, as Spook says in the chat, was free on Xbox Live way back. That's how I played it. I believe that I played it through some kind of service. It might have been that as well. But again, very fun game, lighthearted. You might want to check it out. Again, free, so why not? But with that being said, that wraps up today's show. If you did enjoy it, be sure to drop me a like down below if you are watching the YouTube video. And of course, if you are hanging out live on Twitch, I appreciate you hanging out here tonight. And the show is always 5 days a week, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time over on twitch.tv/TheSamuelAdams. But until tomorrow's show, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the night. I will talk to you soon, and peace.